I think we're ready to start. What a terrific crowd tonight. Thank you all so much for coming. Welcome to the 9th CCEW final presentation celebrating the 12th convening of our summer or semester program. We're very excited to have you here tonight and excited to show off the work and effort that the teams have put in this semester. Over the past 4.5 years, we've looked at 26 different technologies. We've worked with 150 of our best and brightest interdisciplinary students, and we've had a real impact on the fabric of the Oklahoma economy. This semester's class is carrying on the tradition. They've just been terrific. I've been so proud of them. I've just loved watching them develop personally and professionally. It's been just a real joy this semester. So thank you all very much. Before we get into their presentations, I do want to recognize a number of folks in the audience who are just real supporters of our program, without whom we could not have this kind of success. I'd like to recognize Dr. Risser, the chair of our University Research Cabinet, Dean Landers from the School of Engineering, Dean Evans from Price College, Provost Mergler, thank you so much for coming, and J.P. Audis from Development. Without this kind of support from inside the university, we just could not be this successful. We're also very proud of our external relations. Our focus is about economic development, and so our relationships with folks like Michael Carolina, thank you so much for coming tonight. It's very important to us. I'd like to first here focus on CCEW and about innovation. CCEW is all about innovation. This semester is a little interesting and a little different because the projects themselves have been driven by innovation within the program. Now, in the past, we've shown a lot of innovative thinking over the last year. We started the Sooner Launchpad in conjunction with the Price College and the Center for Entrepreneurship. A few weeks ago, awarded $19,000 to students and teams from across the university, from things as wide a variety as software for languages to gourmet hot dogs. It made me hungry listening to that presentation. But we're continuing this tradition of innovation. And so what we've done is we've taken the same engine that makes CCEW so great, our students matched with inventors and serial entrepreneurs from our community, rooted in a very strong and rigorous problem-solving method. What we've done is we've taken that methodology and applied it to two new programs. One, the Software Business Accelerator, and two, CCEW's Social Entrepreneurship Center. In addition to that, we've deployed our fellows in our program in a new way to help OU businesses further their technological commercialization efforts as well. Let me tell you about SOBA, the Software Business Accelerator. This is just a really exciting program. What we've done is we've taken the best of programs from across the world and across the U.S. in incubation type of programs around software development. These are highly focused and with a mindset on very rapid commercialization of software. So what we've done is we've taken our engine, we've added in some software development students, some visual communication students from the School of Fine Arts, and all together have formed a team focused around going from ideation to launching a business in just one semester. And so this evening you're going to see how far this team has progressed. And they've been supported by someone who is described to me as the best iPhone developer in the state of Oklahoma, Mike Wolfenbarger. Mike, you raise your hand. There you go. Okay. Our second innovation is around social entrepreneurship. Over the summer, a number of students came to us and said, we really want to do good as well as learn about business. And so we've offered an avenue that focuses the power of commerce on solving social issues. So we've set up this avenue for students to pursue this passion for doing good as well as business. We believe that social issues can be solved in a long-term, sustainable way by using the power of business. The advantage for OU is it extends our brand internationally. It allows us a platform for starting nonprofit and profit organizations here in Oklahoma that can literally change the world. A third project that you're going to hear about tonight is a project and team focused on supporting and having a great impact on our biotechnology industry here in Oklahoma. Our innovation around this was this summer, a number of our entire team, our fellows, our entrepreneur in residence, Rod Foster, gathered together to support Ann Pereira and her business Biolytics and help her, as well as the Office of Technology Development, put in place a application for the Oklahoma Edge grant, ultimately successfully winning $1.8 million for her commercialization efforts. It's truly a wonderful team effort, and working with Ann was such a joy that we begged her to allow us to give her a team this semester to work on her next steps. Very excited about all three projects, but unfortunately we're also at a point of transition, a sad transition here at CCW. We're going to be losing our entrepreneur in residence, Rod Foster, but we couldn't let him go without recognizing the incredible and amazing impact he's had on the program and our students. Personally, I could not have thought of a better entrepreneur in residence. It was truly a terrific experience for me to work with him. So I gathered some stories. I didn't have anything embarrassing, but I do have photographs. And the students talked about his involvement in the final celebrations and the fun awards he gives, his buzzer at our class impromptu speaking competition. They talked about him stepping in and being an impromptu this evening at this event. They talked about him staying up late at night, helping the students and the teams through their problems. Incredible amount of dedication. They talked about his hosting of our French exchange students for their Super Bowl party to teach them about American football, and then letting them stay for 3 nights in his house, much to the chagrin of Sandy, I'm sure. So Rod, it's been a terrific experience. Good luck with you in your next ventures, and it's been terrific working with you. We also have one other sad transition. We're losing one of our fellows, Stafford Marquardt, who's just been sensational. And without him, we could not have achieved the things we achieved over the past 6 months. We're unfortunately losing him to Google. They do say that they do no evil, but I think they have by taking him from us. So we have some terrific discussions for you this evening, terrific presentations for our team. Really glad you're all here supporting the program. Let me introduce our Vice President for Strategic Planning and Economic Development and the Chairman of CCW for a few remarks.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Pullen. I know a number of you in the room, but it's so great to see so many new faces to join us tonight. As Jeff mentioned, this is the 9th installment of this, but I really think that this evening will be a little different than anything that's come before. Under Jeff's leadership, he's really laid out a very aggressive growth strategy for CCW as we try to respond to the university that our students are demanding. Every semester, we have about 60 applications for 12 slots, and the average GPA of the applicant, not those that are put through, but the applicant is about a 3.6. So you can see the depth and breadth of quality that lies here at the University of Oklahoma, and I really commend Jeff and Mariana and team for taking that market reality and putting action behind it. And you'll see traces of that evolving growth strategy here tonight. Needless to say, I am thrilled by the progression of CCW over the last 4 years. I think like any of the entrepreneurial ventures that CCW endeavors to support, CCW, the program, has actually made a great transition from just really an idea on a napkin all the way to the marketplace. And as I reflect on the companies started, the jobs that have been created, the wealth that's accumulated, and then the career opportunities for our students that have been facilitated, I just can't help but remain wildly enthusiastic about the role of the University of Oklahoma in catalyzing and diversifying our state's economic development. It really is an important endeavor, and CCW is a cog in that wheel. As I think about CCW, I always think that there are two returns on investment that we need to keep in mind. I think tonight you'll see elements of the first return on investment, and that's the near-term economic development that's generated through the successful commercialization of technologies. New headquarters that are started here, jobs that are created, funding that's raised. That's the near-term impact of this program, and I think you'll see that in spades tonight. But what I really get jazzed about is the long-term return on investment, and that's really all about where our students are going. Now, we do keep about 65% of our graduates in-state, increasingly taking entrepreneurial opportunities that either they're finding through creation of companies in this program or ideas they have on their own accord or joining fellow startup companies in the state. But those students that we're losing, the other 35%, we have the added benefit of losing them to the world's most elite companies. The Boston Consulting Group, which we actually had 2 of this year. The Goldman Sachs, 2 of. Google, you heard earlier, and many like companies, right? And if they're not going into industry right away, they're moving into, they're receiving admission in the top graduate programs across the world. 5 students accepted to the Harvard Business School within the last 20 months alone. A tremendous record of performance. And it's this long-term return that's going to occur in this state when they go beyond the borders of Oklahoma, acquire best practices, and then marry that with the experience, enthusiasm, and confidence that they're gaining through this program to return and really be the fabric of the business leadership of Oklahoma, a facet that all of us in this room will really get to enjoy for decades to come. And that's the return on investment that I'm most excited about. Now, I'm also pleased to see so many members of the broader Oklahoma community here tonight. Again, CCW's work could not be performed at the level or accomplished without this growing collaboration between the university, our Oklahoma communities, and other economic development enablers across the state. It's funny, a couple of weeks ago, Paul Risser and I were talking a little bit about the CCW final presentation. And I think that we came to the conclusion that this forum, this final presentation, is really becoming a biannual mechanism to spur community dialogue and create a wonderful idea exchange between what's going on at the university and Oklahoma's communities. These are the types of conversations that need to occur with good frequency for us to collectively maximize and move our state forward. And I want to just thank everyone from the community for being here tonight. It's incredibly important to what we do. Now, in addition, OU's broader economic development efforts are really in full swing. We're seeing record levels of research funding. Our public and private sector engagement is reaching a level of sophistication that we've never seen before. We have a thriving research campus. An incredible progression in our technology transfer through our Office of Technology Development. Just thinking about the research campus itself, we looked the other day and we're approaching, either in the ground or planned and approved, 1 million square feet of new space to bring the university and the government and the private sector all together. And this building is one example of that. But it's not just about the 1 million square feet that's come out of the ground. It's about the fact that every single nook and cranny of the research campus is full. And we have a growing waiting list of private sector companies who are clamoring to co-locate their business alongside our faculty, our staff, and our students. The market is giving us the signal, and the university is responding. And you look at things like 350 private sector jobs that now call the OU campus home. That didn't happen 7 years ago. And it's through the collective efforts of programs like CCEW and many other individuals and leadership from our colleges and other academic and administrative units that are making this possible. It really is a true Oklahoma growth story. And finally tonight, I just really want to underscore your comments about, Jeff, your comments about Rod Foster. He spent much of his time working behind the scenes, but I can tell you that his impact has resonated on the program for the past 3 years. He was attracted to the program initially as one of our mentors for one of the very first commercialization teams at CCW, helping to look at the business prospects of a nanotechnology that renders fabric water and stain resistant. But he didn't just stop there. He actually helped us incorporate the first spin-out company from CCW and put his time and talent behind raising nearly $1 million of capital to further OU innovation. Then you throw in the fact that he found time to continue to serve CCW and the university by mentoring personally over 100 very talented students over the past 3 years, and you see where those students are going. And I think you can just sort of feel the impact that Rod Foster has had, not only on CCW, but on the university and the state as a whole. So again, I know we applauded him earlier, but he really deserves another round of applause. Please join me in thanking Rod Foster for his duty. Okay, and so long ago I recognized that the staff isn't the star of the show, so I'm going to get out of the way and let Mariana MC the rest of the program tonight.
Thank you, Daniel. Now, CCWers is when you get to experience my soft side, because this is the part of the presentation when we get to brag on you. Thank you for your contribution to CCW, to the university, and to the state this fall. The 120 interns before you established CCW's track record in technology development. But the 18 of you have been pioneers in unexplored lands for the program. Software development, social entrepreneurship, while still maintaining and strengthening the core competence of CCW, which is technology development. Your participation ultimately exemplifies what the CCW experience is all about, right? Getting out of your comfort zone. CCW as a program has done that this semester, and this effort would not have been successful had you not been at the core of it. In doing that, you've also taken the CCW culture of fellowship and collaboration, so celebrated by Mr. Marquardt, to a whole new level. You have become friends with one another, and I cannot stress enough how important this is. Because after tonight, when you move on to be the successful politicians, entrepreneurs, engineers, lawyers, you name it, that you will be, what you get to take with you, besides obviously the numerous skills you have acquired, are the friendships and experiences, these shared memories of an experience unlike any other in your academic life. As a class, you have been the largest, but also the most academically diverse group in the history of CCEW. The 18 of you represent 18 majors across 6 colleges: arts and sciences, business, earth and energy, engineering, fine arts, and honors college. Your 3.8 average is also extremely impressive if we consider this diversity. And this is no mistake. CCEW's engine and these secret sauces that we had is really that, right? Its ability to attract and develop top talent from across the university. It really is moving to see you guys, your accomplishments today, 9 months after your interview when you were calculating the number of coffee cups consumed in Norman on an average day, 4 months after going through a never-ending ropes course under extreme temperatures that almost killed me in boot camp, and a few hours after one of the longest nights of your lives. It really has been a privilege for all of us, all of CCW staff members, to have been part of your evolution from the day when you were given the task to move forward an idea that, albeit interesting and innovative, was totally foreign to you, to today, when you have become experts in the areas of your particular projects, and have also probably accumulated an outrageous number of random facts that would only make sense in the context of your CCW projects. In sum, congratulations for applying your unique talents, that uncanny intellectual ability, the maturity beyond your years, that irreproachable work ethic, and that never-ending passion for entrepreneurship, to the delivery of 3 products of the caliber that can only be associated with CCW interns. Congratulations. So, if Jeff, Danny, and of course Mr. Foster are ready to move forward, I would like to introduce our first guests of the night, 2 very important friends of the program and also important participants this fall. Lloyd Hildebrand. Dr. Hildebrand is an associate professor of ophthalmology at the Dean McGee Eye Institute, and Ray Sanders, CEO of Giant Experiences. So Dr. Hilbrand and Mr. Sanders, please come to the podium.
Well, thank you all. Thank you. I want to really say three things. First of all, I want to thank several people. Secondly, I want to talk a little bit about the challenge that our team faced this year, and then introduce a little bit of the solution that they had. Thanks first to CCEW for having the vision to open this up to social entrepreneurship. I think certainly there was some risk in doing that, but I think it was an important step that we took. And thank you for supporting our project in selecting that. And thanks to all of the people that influenced that. Chris Schilling, thank you too for helping support that transition as you were transitioning out yourself. Secondly, I want to thank the group of clinicians. My dear friend Brad Ferris has been going to China for 10 years, and he started this whole vision. And reluctantly, I was dragged to China my first time almost 5 years ago, and have become really enamored with the China project, and am now trying to drag all of you into it. I want to thank Dr. Skuda, who's a chairman of the I-Institute, who's really supported us in doing this work as well, and put many resources, and to all of the colleagues of ours that have gone volunteering their time, volunteering their expenses to go over to China and make this a reality. Finally, I want to thank our team. We really had a great team again this year. To Jay, Sam, Patrick, and Barry, and Lucas as the team captain, it's been a lot of fun. I had them over at my place a while back, and we really had a really good time working on this project. And I'm so excited for you guys, and I hope someday to see you in China with this project. Secondly, I want to talk to you about the challenge that I gave them, and I always told them that you need to be meaningful and relevant. They are trying to help eliminate blindness in 1 million people. Think of Oklahoma City being blind. It's a big project. It's a big project halfway across the world. It's a formidable challenge, has organizational, operational, financial, and sustainability issues that they had to address. And that's a significant challenge for them. They did a great job. I think they heeded President Bourne's call to action in his Letter to America, the book that he wrote, and certainly they now extend this challenge to each of you and to all of us in how you view the world. So, my perspective, I want to hand this over to the I-China team, changing the way we see the world.
Thank you, Lloyd. Well, first of all, I want to make one thing very certain, and that is I'm grateful as well. And as a 1985 graduate of the University of Oklahoma, hearing these grade point averages, I'm thinking, boy, I don't know what I would have done if I had to get into this program in 1985 or sometime before then. So I want to express my thanks to all of you for ensuring that my degree has high value in the marketplace. I certainly spent a fair amount of time in the MBA program here, but I want to thank you for that. Now, there's something we need to do. I know all of you are sitting there that are the students, and you're like nervous Nellies, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get up, all of you, and I'm doing this for my team. I'm kind of setting the stage here. I want all of you all to get up, every one of you that participated. Now, you're going to get up here in just a minute, and you're going to be giving a presentation. And one of the things we talked about in our time together is you have to find your voice, yeah? Is that right? So here on the count of 3, we're just going to get this over with. On the count of 3, we're going to go hoo-yah. All right, you ready? All right, we're going to get rid of those jitters. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, hoo-yah. All right, now you can sit down. Now the jitters are all gone. But seriously, at Giant, I'm the CEO of Giant Experiences, and at Giant, one of our goals is that we want to grow leaders and we want to grow companies in order that they might use their success for significance. When Jeff asked me to be a part of this program and launching the social entrepreneurism project, I was all in. I was excited. As I travel the world with Giant Experiences, you would not believe, I was speaking to someone earlier, one of the faculty, social entrepreneurism isn't just a phenomenon in the United States. It is literally found in the developing world. It is found in China. It is found in Uganda. On Thanksgiving Day, I did a mentoring program with 8 Ugandan students that are literally interested in changing the fabric in their society, and they're going to be using social entrepreneurism. So Giant Experiences has as its goal to mobilize leaders who want to use their influence to impact the world for good. So it ought to be pretty easy for you to see why I would be interested in connecting with these students right over here, because as I see it, These are the folks that are going to be influencing the world and are going to be impacting society through business. Can you imagine that? Something that we call social entrepreneurism. Now, this last weekend, one of our national clients is Chick-fil-A. I had the opportunity to sit in Truett Cathy's desk. It was kind of a fun thing, sitting there wondering, what do we have in common? And one thing for sure, if you've ever been into one of their restaurants, you notice that we have a haircut that's very similar. Truett is in his 80s, and he's lost his hair, so if it was good enough for Truett Cathy, I considered it being good enough for me. But as I sat there, I wandered around, and I noticed a safe on the wall. And on the wall, on the safe, it said secret sauce. And you nearly stole my speech, but I thought, okay, I'm going to keep it in. But on the wall, in the safe, was a little plaque that said secret sauce. And in that safe, they tell me it's true, they have the secret sauce for Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. And as I was driving down this evening and I was talking to my wife, I said, you know what? The secret sauce for the University of Oklahoma, I truly believe, is the I-CCEW program. I'm not kidding you. These students are impressive. Quite frankly, I was intimidated after the first presentation. I thought, man, what it must be like. The standard, the bar has been raised. I'm glad I'm not in school now. I'm not sure where I'd be. I certainly wouldn't be in the I-CCEW program based on the talent that I saw. So, for any of you who have students involved in it, any of you who are faculty, kudos, applause. Jeff, Daniel, Rod, Mariana, class act. And all of you are absolutely fantastic. So the last thing I want to say is this. You know, it's been said that there are those, when they come in a room like this, they darken it. Then there are students like these before us right here. When they walk in, they brighten it. Can I just tell you from my perspective, a guy who travels the world, is involved with business leaders literally all around the world, you are among the best of the best tonight. These students are the future. The future looks bright because of programs like CCEW. And with that, I give you a fantastic project, that being I-China.
Hello, my name is Jay Kumar, and I'm a microbiology sophomore from Oklahoma City.
My name is Samantha Toth. I'm an international security studies and economics senior from Warrenville, Illinois.
My name is Patrick Long. I'm a finance, accounting, and MIS junior from Oklahoma City.
My name is Barry Conrad. I'm a finance senior from Boulder, Colorado.
This semester, we have been led by Lucas Rice, industrial engineering junior from Fort Gibson, and we've been working with Dr. Lloyd Hildebrand, a lead ophthalmologist from the Dean McGee Eye Institute at the Health Sciences Center, and Ray Sanders, CEO of Giant Experiences. Our team's project represents, as has been said, a step for CCEW into a new territory, the territory of social entrepreneurship. In our business plan, we apply free market principles of commerce to solving a social issue, the issue of cataract blindness. Imagine something with me. Pretend you are the grandparent of the adorable little boy above me, and that one of your greatest joys comes from interacting with him on a daily basis. One day, however, you notice that you can't quite see his smiling face as well as you normally could. You shrug it off, however, and convince yourself that it's probably nothing. More time passes, however, and you can no longer deny that something is seriously wrong. More time passes, and ultimately, inevitably, you cannot see his face or anything else at all. You have become completely blind. This is the story of cataract blindness. And in the region we are dealing with, it is not the story of tens, hundreds, or thousands of people, but of 1 million people. This region is Sichuan province of China, specifically the eastern portion of Sichuan, an area roughly the size of the state of Missouri. Imagine that. Take Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. Fill every seat with Sooner fans. Multiply the entire thing by 12. And that is the size of this problem. That is the size of this issue that our team is going to fix. Now, what exactly is a cataract? What is making all these people blind? To better understand that, let's first look at a normal human eye. Usually, light passes unhindered from the outside to the light-sensitive retina, the orange part at the back of the eye. However, on its path, light must pass through the clear lens at the front of the eye. This clear lens is made of protein, which, when denatures, creates a cloud, and it results in the obscured vision that we saw earlier. This denaturation of protein can result due to a number of factors, the single most important of which is the aging process. There are other accessory factors that can cause this protein denaturation, including increased UV exposure and nutritional deficiencies. If left untreated, a cataract can continue to develop until finally no light can pass through the eye. This is the cause of the total blindness we all experienced a few slides ago. The good news, however, is that cataracts are indeed curable. Among the available treatment options is a relatively simple 10 to 15 minute surgical procedure known as manual small incision cataract surgery, or M6 for short. In this relatively simple procedure, the surgeon goes in and manually removes the hardened and diseased lens and replaces it with a prosthetic known as an intraocular lens, or IOL for short. The problem in Sichuan is not necessarily that no treatment options exist. The problem is that patients are not getting the treatment they need. My friend Sam will tell you why.
Thank you, Jay. The 1 million people in Sichuan who suffer from cataract blindness are unable to get the treatment they need because of 3 main barriers to surgery. These are limited access to surgical facilities, a lack of qualified surgeons, and the high cost of existing cataract surgeries. Let's look at each of these barriers in more detail. Urban Sichuan is thoroughly modernized. Its capital city, Chengdu, is home to 2 large hospitals, West China University, which is the largest hospital in the world, as well as Sichuan Provincial People's Hospital. Both of these hospitals have state-of-the-art eye care facilities. Rural Sichuan, on the other hand, has limited eye care facilities, as well as a lack of affordable transportation, which means rural residents are unable to afford the transportation to the cities to get the treatment they need. This problem is exacerbated by the fact that over 80% of the population of Sichuan is located in these rural areas, meaning that the vast majority of cataract patients are unable to get the treatment they need. In addition, Sichuan suffers from a lack of qualified surgeons. In order to reduce the backlog of 1 million cataract patients by 2020, 125,000 surgeries must be performed each year. However, current surgeons are only performing about 30,000 surgeries each year. This results in a gap of over 95,000 surgeries, which must be performed annually if the backlog is to be reduced. This lack of surgeons is the result of the current training program in Sichuan. Although there are many ophthalmic residents, they are stuck in a 10-year program which is not standardized and non-transferable, meaning they are unable to complete their treatment at another hospital. As a result, there are very few qualified surgeons who can perform these cataract surgeries. Finally, the high cost of existing surgeries represents a barrier to many patients. Existing cataract surgeries cost anywhere from $500 to $700. This does not include the cost of other things that the patients might incur, including transportation to and from these urban regions. However, the annual income in rural Sichuan is only $635 a year in rural areas, making the existing surgeries cost prohibitive to many patients. I-China has developed a sustainable business model which will eliminate each of these barriers to surgery. Under our model, surgeries will be accessible to patients. They will be performed by qualified surgeons at a price which the patients can afford. To explain more about our model, I'll hand it over to Patrick.
Thank you, Sam. Now that Sam has told you about the current barriers to surgery, as well as I-China's solution, let's take a look at how I-China breaks down the current barriers and makes surgeries accessible. First, I-China will be placing eye care centers in the eastern part of rural Sichuan. The locations of these centers has been identified based on 2 criteria: population density and net per capita income. In the first quarter of 2012, I-China will have 1 eye care center. Then we'll expand to a second one in the second quarter, and end year 2012 with 3 initial eye care centers. I-China will be renting office space from county-level hospitals to use as its eye care centers. These centers will be placed with I-China's surgeons. And to make our centers even more accessible, we'll have buses to transport patients to their appointments. To help patients know about the I-China brand, we'll partner with the local government, as well as two of the most renowned hospitals in Sichuan province, SPPH and WCU. Now, let's take a look at how I-China takes care of the lack of surgeon barrier. If you recall from Sam's section, the cause of this barrier is that the current training program is highly inefficient. Ophthalmic residents must complete the entire 10-year program to become fully trained ophthalmic surgeons and perform cataract surgery. I-China, on the other hand, offers a highly efficient training program. I-China is able to do this because one of its partners, Project Vision, has already a successful 90-day cataract surgery training program. Project Vision is a blindness elimination program based in Hong Kong. So, the plan is to have ophthalmic residents train at SPPH and WCU. Then, they'll come to I-China to work for 2 years, after which they'll have the option to go back to SPPH or WCU to pursue full ophthalmic surgery training. As well, they'll be receiving a certificate of quality from the Dean McGee Eye Institute, signifying their excellent ability to do cataract surgery. This partnership with SPPH, WCU, and Project Vision will ensure that I-China has a steady flow of competent cataract surgeons. Finally, let's take a look at how I-China makes surgeries affordable. I-China, compared to current hospitals, has many cost advantages. The first of these is per surgery salary incentive. I-China will be paying its surgeons $15 per surgery as salary incentive instead of the $180 paid at current hospitals. And even though this per surgery salary incentive is lower than current hospitals, I-China surgeons will still be compensated competitively because our surgeons perform at least 3,000 cataract surgeries a year versus the couple hundred that's performed at current hospitals. The second area where I-China has a cost advantage is materials required to do cataract surgery. Current hospitals offers high-tech surgeries that require expensive medical equipment to perform, while I-China offers low-tech M6 surgeries that only requires a few inexpensive tools to do. Third, I-China has a cost advantage in the administrative expense area. Current hospitals' rich urban clients demand high-quality hospital amenities, so naturally, their costs are higher. Whereas I-China, we offer more economical amenities that are still comfortable to keep our costs low. Finally, current hospitals charge around $200 as part of their profit and miscellaneous expenses because their patients can afford at least $600 per cataract surgery. But I-China knows that our rural patients can only afford $69.85 or 11% of their annual income, so we'll cap our profit at $19.41 to make cataract surgeries affordable. Now that you understand how I-China breaks down the current barriers to surgery, I'll hand it over to Barry to tell you more about additional costs that I-China must consider, as well as our business growth model.
Thank you, Patrick. Now that you know that I-China can make a profit off of doing one cataract surgery, let's take a look at some of the startup costs associated with I-China that weren't factored into the profit analysis that Patrick just showed you. I-China will have 3 different size centers, which will be placed strategically based on the population density of the region that they're in. I-China will have a small center with a startup cost of $93,000, a medium center with a startup cost of $190,000, and finally, a large center with a startup cost of $280,000. We can see how the number of these centers grows in the future as we take a look at our growth model, which starts in 2012, our first year of operation, and continues to 2015, our final year of growth. In our first year, I-China will have 2 small centers, and will grow to 6 small centers by the end of 2015. In terms of medium centers, we will start with 1 medium center in 2012, and will grow to 7 medium centers by the end of 2015. Finally, I-China will have 1 large center in 2013, a second large center in 2014, bringing us to a grand total of 15 I-China centers by the end of 2015. So, now that we understand some of these costs, we can take a better look at the income I-China will be making. In our first year of operation, I-China will see a loss due to the fact that the startup costs of these centers outweighs the profit that we'll be making on the surgeries. However, as we move forward into the future, into 2013 and 14, I-China will begin to see some net income off of doing cataract surgeries. The net income made in those 2 years will be reinvested back into I-China so that we'll be able to continue to grow into 2015 and beyond. In 2015, 16, and the years following, I-China will see a positive income. That income will be reinvested into our partner county-level hospitals and will be pulled aside so that I-China can now afford to do free cataract surgeries to those residents in Sichuan that cannot afford our $70 cost. So, now that you know that we can be sustainable throughout our growth, let's take a look to see how long it will take us to perform 1 million cataract surgeries in Sichuan province. Currently, in our current year, there are 1 million people in Sichuan who need to have cataract surgery performed. After I-China's first year of operation, we have completed about 40,000 surgeries. Moving on to 2015, I-China will have done about 300,000 surgeries. And finally, by the middle of 2019, with all 15 centers fully operational for at least 5 years, I-China will have completed the backlog of 1 million cataract surgeries. So, now that we see that we can get through the 1 million cataract surgeries, let's take a look at how one patient goes through the I-China process from blindness to sight. Most patients will hear about I-China through a family member who, in turn, will have heard of I-China through TV ads and flyers marketed by the local government. Once the family decides that they should have screening for their family member, I-China will provide transportation from their rural township to a county center where I-China doctors will be available to screen the patients. Once it is understood that that patient does need a cataract surgery, I-China will schedule an appointment for that patient 1 month from their screening date. On their day of surgery, an I-China patient will be picked up and taken to one of 15 I-China centers, where their surgery will last only 10 to 15 minutes, and their cataract will be replaced with an intraocular lens. After the surgery is completed, a patient will be allowed to recover for about 3 hours, after which the patch will finally be removed from the patient's eye, and after years of blindness, they will once again be able to see. A month from their day of surgery, eye doctors will again meet with the patient and will see if the cataract surgery was successful. However, the greatest success that the patient sees comes from the fact that they will once again be able to interact with their family and friends. I-China has several steps that we need to do as we move forward into the future. The first of which is a summit. All of the people that I-China plans to partner with have already met 2 years ago and have dedicated themselves to the common goal of reducing cataracts in Sichuan province. The I-China team has already created a business plan, and we plan to present that plan to these partners in Chengdu in the upcoming summer. We will implement a timeline for completion and hope to get I-China on the ground by 2012. Furthermore, the I-China team will continue to pursue funding. We have determined that it will take around $470,000 in initial funding to start up our project. Project Vision, one of our partners, has already agreed to donate $260,000 for the startup of our first 2 centers. That leaves us with $210,000 remaining. We will seek charitable investors for the $210,000. One of the things that we're most excited about is a meeting that we have this Thursday with Hewlett-Packard in their Asia branch through video conference, where we'll discuss a possible partnership and possible donations as we move forward into the future. As the I-China team has shown you, we have a comprehensive business plan that's able to tackle the 1 million people in Sichuan province who have cataracts. However, our business plan, when tweaked the right way, can be implemented in many of the other provinces within China, but not just China. There are millions and millions of people across the world who suffer from curable blindness in the form of cataracts and who face many of the same barriers to surgery that those in Sichuan do. So, although it is our goal to provide 1 million cataract surgeries by 2020 in Sichuan province, it is our ultimate goal to take the millions and millions of blind across the globe and change the way they see the world. The I-China team would now be happy to answer any questions.
Yes.
Do you feel that you're promoting communism by performing activities in China?
Yeah, the question was regarding if we feel like we're promoting communism through this project.
I can go ahead and answer that. It would never be our intention to promote communism. What we feel that we're doing is going in and providing a valuable service while partnering with the current governments at a local level to offer a service that those governments have not been able to provide at this point.
Yes. You talked about how currently the the I-China surgeons are going to be doing 3,000 a year. Are there any kind of negatives associated with doing so many more surgeries? Why are current surgeons not doing that many already?
Certainly. The question was with regard to why isn't this problem being addressed right now, and why we haven't already, doctors in Sichuan aren't tackling it already.
Okay, that's a good question, and my answer is to first clarify, the surgeons we're comparing to are fully trained ophthalmic surgeons, while the surgeons that work at I-China are only trained to do cataract surgery. And it would be a really good thing to do 3,000 surgeries a year, because if they did not choose I-China and enter our program, then they would still have about 9 years more left of training to go before they can perform cataract surgery. And doing cataract surgery for 2 years at I-China will really prepare them to do other procedures.
Yes.
You're going to train people in 90 days to do cataract surgery?
Sir.
Is there a certification process that would allow a 90-day wonder to go into and do surgeries, or would there be limitations on allowing somebody to do that kind of a surgery in terms of regulatory authorities in Sichuan or in China?
Certainly, the question was with regard to, are there any processes in China that are going to prevent us from using this 90-day program? And I'd be happy to answer that. Project Vision's already in place in Hong Kong, and they have this 90-day program that they've been using for the past several years already. So we feel that with our partnership with them, it allows us to go through the legal processes that they've already gone through.
This has been a terrific team. Behind that presentation is an extremely rigorous business plan and a lot of work. There are many hours with late-night phone calls, setting up the supply chain, talking to these other partners, working with these other agencies to line up the funding. All I can say is thank goodness for Skype, because my phone bill would have been huge. Our next group is our software business accelerator group called CrowdStory. I want to introduce Mike Wolfenbarger to introduce his team.
Thanks, Jeff. Three things I want to touch on before I introduce these guys. Jeff introduced me with a title that I really don't want to claim. I don't claim to be the best at anything in software development, but I've been very fortunate enough to work with people that I believe to be some of the best software developers in Oklahoma, and that's been a very rewarding experience. When I came out of the university, out of the College of Engineering in 1992, the idea of starting and running a software business was certainly something that sounded appealing to me. We had new technology that was coming out in terms of graphical user interfaces that were, we all thought, well, this is going to change the world. Now my mom can use a computer. And it really did. It came a long way, but I don't think we realized then just how far else we had to go. But there were a lot of barriers to entry to getting into a business of selling software. You have to worry about distribution, and you have to worry about manufacturing physical disks and putting software on them, duplicating them, and writing user manuals, and doing tech support by phone, and getting stores to stock your product, and all of these things that are just barriers to entry that would cause a student coming out of a university to say, well, I'm going to go to work for somebody else. I'm not going to try to do this myself. I don't even know where to start. Look at the situation today, just in the last couple of years, over the last 10 years, and then all of the couple of really cool things in the last 2. The internet happened since I got out of school. It removes one of those barriers to entry. In the last couple of years, we've seen this big push into the mobile space and just a revolution in terms of how we interact with computing devices. We're moving to touch-based devices with much simpler user interfaces. We're seeing go-to-market strategies like Apple's App Store, and we're seeing the new opportunities in terms of monetization, whether it's through ads, whether it's through other kinds of micropayments, whether it's a $1, a $2, or a $10 app in the App Store. These are the kinds of things, the kinds of barriers to entry that have just dropped and made it easier to get into this business. And the internet, of course, has made location, where you're at with your software business, just not really a factor. So the thing that appeals to me about SOBA, the idea of a software business accelerator on this campus, is there are a ton of great ideas, on any college campus. There's definitely a bunch of them here that I've seen. And there's no reason why those ideas have to leave the state of Oklahoma to be commercialized. So what I want to see happen with SOBA, and the reason I was excited about being involved in it, is I see no reason at all why the state of Oklahoma can't be a center for software development, a center for new software companies to form and be born and generate revenue for this state, to keep our talented kids, not just the programmers, but the visual designers and the user experience guys and the business folks, keep them in this state. And to that end, I mean, obviously, we'd all love to see the next Bill Gates or the next Mark Zuckerberg or somebody like that come out of Oklahoma or start a business in Oklahoma. But even more important to me are the much smaller companies and the people that I look at with the kind of business I do, the Eric Sinks and the Joel Spolskys. And if you don't know who those people are, Google them. They're people that went out on their own, started very small software companies. They make a few $1 million a year in revenue. They employ 5, 10, 20 people. Those are the kind of companies I'd like to see come out of a software business accelerator here and stay in this state. So to be able to be involved with something and get in on the ground floor of it that might help create that opportunity here in Oklahoma is just been a fantastic opportunity. And I want to say something about these guys. We started this very quickly because the idea came up kind of late in the summer, and the idea to go ahead and start a project here. What we did was we threw these guys in the deep end of the pond with a couple of laptops and a software development kit and some APIs and said, go start a software business. We didn't tell them what kind of business. We didn't tell them what kind of product they had to make. We just said, go do something. And I think the only requirement we had is you've only got a semester to do it, and we'd like there to be computer software involved in some form. I mean, it's a software business accelerator, so you need to write some code. And I think that's probably about the only two requirements we gave them. I'll be honest with you. If I'd been a student coming into a project like that, I'd have probably looked at you guys and walked away. This team didn't. And so I'm just really impressed at the energy and the excitement and the ability to take a really large team. I think this is the largest one you've had in CCEW, with a really diverse background. We've got programmers, we've got marketing folks, we've got film and video, we've got visual communications, and that's what it takes to make good software. One of the things I learned, coming with a technical background, is I can't make a good commercial software product that appeals to the masses by myself. I don't have the design skills. I don't have the visual communication skills, the user experience skills. I know I can look at something and tell you it's bad, but it doesn't mean I can make it myself and make it good. So seeing this group of people come together in such a short amount of time and create something, come up with something to create and then create it, has been just a great experience to watch. And it's been a rewarding experience to have an opportunity after being out of school for 18 years to work with a group of students again. So I'm really thankful for that. And with that, I'll introduce Team Crowd Story.
Good evening. I'm Bryce Stubblefield, an economics senior from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
I'm Frank Lazoo, a computer engineering senior from Weatherford, Oklahoma.
Daniel Bailey, a computer science senior from Newcastle, Oklahoma.
Sean Miller, a marketing and supply chain management senior from Plano, Texas.
I'm Greg Gustafson, a computer science senior from Owasso, Oklahoma.
I'm Megan Gesseroon, visual communications junior from Edmond, Oklahoma.
I'm Virginia Duke. I'm a film and video studies senior from Billings, Montana.
Jack Randolph. I'm an entrepreneurship, finance, and accounting senior from Oklahoma City.
Our team leader is TJ Moen, and our mentors are Sridhar Radhakrishnan and Mike Wolfenbarger. And we are Team Crowd Story, the 9 inventors of the mobile application that combines GPS locations with a new social network and audio snippets that allow you and I to tell, store, and share our stories in a really new and exciting way. Because everyone has a story to share, and we as a team are no different. Like Mike said, We're 9 full-time students that came from incredibly diverse academic backgrounds. We came together under the CCEW umbrella and were literally given a blank piece of computer paper. And we were told, come up with an idea, develop that software, and build a business all in one semester. And here we are today to show you what we've come up with. What exactly is CrowdStory? Essentially, it's a mobile application where users submit audio files that are automatically looped to the location where they are. It allows these users to store them for themselves, share them with their friends, coworkers, or family, their social network, or share with the entire CrowdStory network. We have a really exciting technology driving this product, and we're moving into a fast-growing and really exciting market. However, the nature of that market is that we have to have an aggressive marketing strategy, as well as a proven business model that can ensure to us and our investors that we have a bright future. Now, imagine, if you will, the days when you were in college, walking down the quad, a nice fall day, and one of those kids who thinks that they just own the world comes blazing past on a bike. You have to jump out of the way. What happens on the day that karma comes around and you want to share that story with your friends? Well, there's CrowdStory.
That's right. So karma strikes back with CrowdStory. And let's see an example of how Susie Q can share her story by recording a snippet and sharing it with her friends. Here we have a map with her location as the green pin, and the red pins representing snippets that her friends have left. Now she can switch between seeing all the snippets that people have left with the Crowd tab, or just seeing her friends' snippets with the Friends tab. So we go over to the Record tab, and we hit the Record button, start sharing our story. Loading bar is telling us how much time we've got left, and if we mess up while we're recording, we can go down, hit the Create New button, and start again, just so that we can share our story exactly the way that we want to. Now, meanwhile, the system is looking for our current location so that we can send that data along with the audio to the server and put that snippet back on the map. So now we're sharing our story. Susie's going to hit the Submit button, slide over to the next screen, give her snippet a name that's going to pop up whenever we hit the pin on the map. So here we have bike wreck. And then the description field is just going to be a one-liner or a two-liner that gives a short preview of what we're getting ourselves into. So here we have bike wreck on the North Oval. Now we're going to hit done. Submit button is going to send this snippet to our server in a remote location. We're going to go back to the map, reload our snippets, and now we see that a new pin has dropped down where the current location was. Now we see bike wreck on the North Oval. Now we're going to, at this point, there's a text message notification that goes out to all of Susie Q's friends, letting them know that she's recorded a snippet and that they can go find it on the application. So at this point, we're going to switch points of view, and a new user, me, is going to open up the app. Here's my current location with the green pin. Here's my profile with my picture, my account information, CrowdStory's information, all about us. If we go over to the Crowd tab, we're going to see a list of our friends. So here's Susie Q, and we have all of the snippets that she's left for us to discover. We click on it. Here's a bike wreck. Slide over, and we can listen to it. So here's a story.
Okay, so I'm walking past the Union on my way to a test, and this stupid bike rider comes flying past me, almost hits me. I have to jump out of the way. And he's one of those bike riders that thinks there's a bike lane on the street and you have to drive around them because they think they're too cool to use the little side pathway thing. Well, he tries to ramp this huge pile of leaves, ends up crashing through it and flipping his bike into the bushes. His papers went everywhere. Serves him right.
So that's just an example of a story that could be shared. And if you like that story, you might give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, you might give it a thumbs down. And this, along with a flag button, constitutes our rating system that helps us manage our content, manage our snippets. So now that we've seen an example of how to share your story by recording a snippet and letting your friends know about it, let's see how this stuff works on the back end.
So there's quite a bit that happens after you hit that submit button, but let's take a look at a few of the basic steps that goes on there. First thing we do is we go and we get a GPS location from the satellites in orbit around the Earth. This allows us to pinpoint your location to anywhere within a few meters, anywhere in the world. After we get your location and tag it to your story, we send it off to our servers, which will be hosted with Amazon EC2, or the Elastic Compute Cloud. Now that sounds pretty scary, but all it means is that we have a highly scalable, easy-to-use platform that will allow us to store everything we could possibly imagine. Finally, whenever anyone else wants to hear it, you can coordinate with Facebook. We are integrating with Facebook to allow you to share your story with whoever you want. Now, this is a very diverse group of technologies, but when it comes together, it forms something of value.
So CrowdStory is an exciting new application because of all the potential avenues of use that it presents to the users. But we've identified three initial uses that will initially attract users to our app. They include personal, community, as well as social. The personal avenue will lend itself to a time capsule journal. It'll allow users to document a snippet event, say a speech at a family reunion that has a high significance to a very limited audience. Second is the community approach, which will foster a be in the know everywhere you go concept. This will make the content uploaded up to CrowdStory made public information, meaning that you can travel to a brand new space or location on a vacation or a business trip and become well versed in your surroundings based on the opinions and inputs of the members of the local community. And finally, there's the social avenue, which is a great new outlet for the social network junkies that have the desire to interact with their friends, but it will present a new form of doing so through a geographically engaging way. This will not only allow people to share their stories for the sake of information, but also to help with sharing for the sake of humor. Now, this will also allow an element of geography to be incorporated into discussions, bringing a whole new dimension to conversations, and potentially spur entirely new discussions over locations or landmarks themselves. And finally, this will allow people to share their initial reactions to events in the places that those events actually occur. For example, your personal reaction to the earthquake in Norman, Oklahoma. Now, initially, we'll be targeting the college-age demographic, and through focus groups, they have readily identified that they are most likely to utilize the social avenue. This is going to be beneficial to this demographic specifically because it will help break down the barriers that they face when they desire to share their personal experiences with their friends or social network. And it's through this expeditions process, when paired with the unique experience of the GeoPin audio experience combined, that will create a stickiness and keep people coming back to CrowdStory for more. So not only is CrowdStory a valuable application, but it's entering into a very valuable market as well. The App Store has been predicted to generate over $30 billion in revenue in 2015, and that's across 5 main categories, 2 of which CrowdStory falls directly into. But more specifically, we are targeting the fastest growing segment of this market, which is LBS, or location-based services, that comprises $12.7 billion. Now, why is this market predicted to grow so rapidly? Well, despite user-generated content being a fairly new concept in the mobile space, people are readily adopting these applications and integrating them into their daily routines. And just as the technology is rapidly evolving, so is the growth of the user base, and it tends to be viral and grow overnight in some cases. Now, you'll notice, despite the social network foundation of their user base, they continue to experience astronomical growth and have done so by 240% in the last year alone. And in the fairly new location-based app category, the player Foursquare actually grows by an average of 25,000 new users each and every day. And the exciting implications for all these growth patterns for CrowdStory is that they've all acquired their million-strong user bases in a matter of 18 months or less. Now, despite all the excitement in this space, there's currently nothing that exists on the App Store that directly competes with CrowdStory. But let's take a quick look at some of the applications that we will be competing against for users' attention.
Okay, there are 4 areas we're going to look at to compare the applications that exist out there on the App Store. The first of which is location. Location, does the technology use some sort of GPS tagging within the application? Social network, does it use some sort of friend system or a way of sharing? Audio, does it use the technology of audio for content? And then finally, has it been developed yet? First of which is HeyTell. HeyTell is a walkie-talkie device for the iPhone. It allows people to communicate with their friends. It lacks the social network feature and doesn't tie to GPS coordinates. Next is Foursquare. Foursquare allows a user to check in at a location. However, it lacks multimedia functions such as audio. Next is HerePlanet. HerePlanet is a tour-based application that reads that a computer reads Wikipedia articles to you about the location. However, it lacks social network features, and people love the application, but they hate the computer voice and would prefer a human element. Next is City Slicker, and it is like a lot of applications that exist on the App Store that are specific to one location. And this is one of the problems and flaws in these type of applications. And it also lacks social network features and user-generated content. Finally, our application takes into account all three of these areas: location, social network, and audio. These three things alone enhance the storytelling experience for users. So that's why we think this will be a successful product. The only thing lacking, however, in our product is the development, and we're continuing on the timeline of getting it fully developed. However, if there are any sort of competition that does involve in this space, which is possible, we feel that we can combat this effectively with our strong marketing strategy.
Our marketing strategy is split up into three main phases: an on-campus launch, South by Southwest Interactive Festival, and from there, future growth. We plan to officially launch in February of 2011 on OU's campus. Our top priority is to build up content so that our first-time users absolutely love the app. We also want to generate buzz through a snippet event. Imagine waking up one morning and finding OU's campus covered in giant 6-foot-tall push pins. What's going on? Well, to find out, users can go up to these push pins, and it'll tell them to download CrowdStory onto their iPhone, and they can listen to the story that's tethered to that location. Next, we plan to attend South by Southwest Interactive Festival, which is a premier software startup conference. Both Twitter and Foursquare both first launched at South by Southwest. This is a huge conference, and we have several creative ideas to make sure that we make a big splash while we're there. We also not only want to generate users, but we want to gain publicity and make connections with possible investors. Following South by Southwest, we want to really focus on the blogging community to make sure that we get our name out there. We have several internal marketing strategies to make sure that CrowdStory goes viral. For example, we've already created a CrowdStory commercial, and we plan to film several more in the following months. We also want to repeat the OU Snippet event on other campuses across Oklahoma and Texas. Now that you've seen our marketing strategy, let's take a look at some of the numbers behind this.
All right. For each of the events that Megan just showed you, we looked at the cost associated with each, as well as the expected number of downloads we anticipate to get in order to make sure that we're spending our marketing dollars effectively. This download number comes from looking at the demographic that each of these events reach and then determining a modest conversion rate accordingly. As you can see, South by Southwest has our highest initial funding cost. However, as Megan just explained, South by Southwest is a premier launchpad and could serve as a catalyst for success in many of our other marketing strategies. We plan to be discussed in traditional media, as well as being featured on other blogs. Now, while being featured on a blog doesn't cost anything, this actually could be an avenue that has the highest potential for impact. For example, Mashable and TechCrunch.com are some of the premier online voices in the technology community and have a tech-savvy early adopter user base that could lead to our largest source of adoption numbers. And then finally, we plan to duplicate our OU Snippet event on other campuses. To wrap it up, or to sum that up, we're looking at spending less than $18,000 to acquire over 55,000 users. What this means is we're only spending 32 cents to acquire one user, which, as Jack will explain in a minute, is actually a very small number when compared to the actual value of this user. Based on our event forecasting, we have a marketing plan. Our initial funding forecast for the next 4 months, it looks to be about $25,000, which most of this is going towards marketing. However, in order to take CrowdStory to the next level, following South by Southwest and following our expected trajectory and our inflection point in user growth, we anticipate needing approximately $740,000 to help support CrowdStory in the next year, from May 2011 to May 2012. Now, this will not only go towards our expected increase in server costs with our growing user base, but also will help us build our business infrastructure, increase our software development, and improve our data management. All in all, we have minimal yet critical funding needs for the first 4 months of our launch, and then we will be looking for seed funding in order to help us support CrowdStory as we grow. Next, we need to look at how to turn that initial investment of $740,000 into a much greater return for our stakeholders.
Thank you. Our business model is based on the most successful of social networking companies that have all released the app for free in order to maximize the number of user downloads. We will monetize through planned revenue streams at strategic points in the future in order to not inhibit the user experience. The first revenue stream will be premium features, a content creation tool that will enhance the user experience for a niche portion of our user base. An example is a tool, an audio tour tool, where the users are able to bring together multiple snippets. Another example is a voice-changing tool where users can sound like T-Pain or Arnold Schwarzenegger. In fact, audience, come with me, please, real quick, to August of 2011, when CrowdStory will actually exist. So imagine I have CrowdStory and I'm using the voice-changing app. I hit create. Get to the chopper. Then all of you who have CrowdStory can hit play and listen. Get to the chopper! A pretty cool feature. A second revenue stream will be through business partnerships. Think about this as a coupon where businesses will give a deal to all CrowdStory users who will give a thumbs-up vote to their snippet. We will implement this a year after launch when we'll have a large enough user base in order to attract these business partners. A third revenue stream will be advertising. We'll use two different kind of ads, banner ads as well as audio ads in our mobile app space. And we're going to implement this a year and a half after launch. Based on this implementation timeline of revenue, here you'll see our net profit and loss for the first 3 years of CrowdStory. We've projected these numbers based on assumptions about how our users will behave, and also on cost. Think of server cost based on the Amazon EC2 scalable platform, and business infrastructure cost that we've benchmarked against comparable firms. We will have our monthly break-even during year 2, and our first annual net profit at the end of year 3, which will be $5.9 million. The most likely exit for CrowdStory will be through a strategic buyout, because this happens very often in the social networking space. A key metric when valuing social networks is the size of their user base. Here are 4 social networking companies that all received offers before they gained substantial monetization for their business, but had a large user base. The first 3 you'll recognize, as we already talked about them. The fourth is Koprol, the Indonesian version of Foursquare, who Yahoo acquired in May. We take the $50 value per user number of Koprol and use it to value CrowdStory. At the end of year 1, with 150,000 users, it gives us a value of $7.5 million. And at the end of year 2, with 3 million users, it gives us a valuation of $150 million. Which, when you look at that $740,000 investment, it seems quite minimal. Now, Bryce will make his return to show you our broad-based implementation.
When we look to the future, we want to give special emphasis to the next 4 months, which we've shown have been critical in our development process, and then the following year. On the development side, we're looking to complete and perfect our 1.0 release by late January or early February. We will then submit to the App Store, and then following that, consumers will be able to download from their iPhones. Immediately after, we will begin revising and improving the product based upon user feedback, as well as working on our 2.0 release, which we hope to release by the end of March. 2.0 will include video capability, which our focus groups have shown is something that many people would like to see in our feature set. We will also be expanding onto the Android platform. For those of you who aren't familiar, Android is just another smartphone platform that will expand our potential user base. On the legal side, we're working with the university to license this technology so that once we incorporate, everything will be set. We're also currently undergoing a prior art search so that we make sure that we are not infringing upon others' intellectual property. While on the same line, we're looking at patenting, trademarking, and copywriting so that we protect our own idea. Now, this stage, as we've shown, is critical for funding. These first 4 months are our initial $25,000 need, but we'll also be coming up with our strategy for how to secure the $740,000 that we will need for the following year. And on the PR side, we want to give special attention to the university snippet events, as well as South by Southwest Interactive Trade Show in March. To conclude, CrowdStory really is an exciting way for you and I to share stories in a new technologically advanced world. We are entering into a very exciting market. We have a strong marketing strategy as well as a proven business model that shows us that our future is bright. We thank you for your time this evening. We hope you'll be looking for us on the App Store soon, and we welcome any questions. Yes?
You said that each of the stories was going to be public, that anybody could click on it to listen to it.
The question was whether each story is going to be made public upon clicking.
We have multiple levels of privacy that we're going to be implementing. So not every snippet is going to be available for everybody to see. You have the option to choose your privacy when you post it. So we know that there are issues with this and potential legal issues with this, so we're definitely going to be controlling that. Snippets made that aren't available to the public may be visible, but they would be anonymous.
Yes. Okay, the question was on our net profit and loss graph. Sure.
What magic does turn the negative number to $5.9 million? You never gave us any kind of per unit numbers in terms of the 3 different categories of your market. Could you break that down just a little bit? It seems sort of critical.
Sure, and it's an interesting model. It's based on a lot of assumptions, which I can go into further detail later. But to get the general view of it, it's the value with these social networking companies, and when you can basically monetize these revenue streams is when you get to a certain number of user size. And what it is let's take the advertising example. One of the good things about advertising on the mobile space is that you can charge more for a mobile ad, especially a rich media ad like an audio snippet that one of our business sponsors might include. And so, based on having this many users, we'll be able to create this kind of revenue. And that's why you see a huge jump, because there's a huge jump in the user base size, as well as we don't implement the advertising until month 18, which will be halfway through year 2. And so the revenue jumps up a lot there, but we don't want to put it in any earlier because we have to wait till we've created a need for the app. So that.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I will. Let me understand this. I'm outside of O'Connell's, and my phone rings and says, "Hello, you're at a snippet point." Is that correct? And you've sold to O'Connell's the ability to put a snippet, so I can then go, I wonder what O'Connell's has got to say to me. And then I click it, and it says, if you're under 21, get the hell out of here. And now you've sold that to O'Connell's to crowd the airspace with all this information, and this is the product you sell. Am I confused?
Are you asking whether by having the partnerships and having businesses being able to put snippets up, it could potentially make the app less valuable because you'll have a lot of commercialization?
I'm just trying to find out where the money comes from. So.
We'll say with this coupon, take this coupon idea. If there's a company called Groupon that has a similar model, and what they'll do is, if you get, they'll say, okay, if 10 people will listen to our snippet and give it a thumbs up vote, then CrowdStory users can come in and get 50% off on all hamburgers. And then all the money that they make on those hamburger sales that day, they split 50-50 with us. Some of the models that are more, where we do more of the work would be 50-50. Probably what we would look at is taking 10% of the revenue from that, which isn't a great revenue stream necessarily for that business, but a lot of the businesses look at it in terms of marketing as a good marketing tool while they're still getting some of the money back. Yes?
Your data suggests that potential users are interested in video capabilities. Why wait until the second version of the app to bring it out?
Okay, the question was why we're waiting to release a 2.0 with video capabilities.
Well, it really gets back to the content area. We feel that audio is a good medium to start out with because it really has a lot less danger in the content that people might upload. Also, audio is definitely a smaller medium, and that will decrease our server costs starting out. We also think that audio is very personal. It's much easier to tell a story by speaking it when you're there at the location than it is to write it out with a text or even to act it out with a video. So we feel like this is a good medium to start out with. We certainly are going to implement video soon. It's at the top of the list for our features to implement, but we're confident we're starting out on the right foot.
Yeah.
I'm the only person interested. Do you have to be at the location in order to hear the snippet?
All right, the question was whether you have to be at the location in order to hear the snippet that, say, your friend has just uploaded.
No, you will not have to be there.
To build on that and maybe elaborate a little bit more, you don't have to be at the location in order to hear what your friend had uploaded. However, there's also going to be a feature later added on where once you happen to stumble across, say, O'Connell's, your phone will alert you that your friend has previously submitted a snippet.
Sorry, there was a pun in there that I'm not sure that you intended.
Yes.
If you have a really large number of friends who are all posting snippets, what does your map look like on the face of the phone? Will it be just a group? A million pins, or how do you screen that or filter it?
Yeah, that's something we've been working on. The plan is right now we're just posting it and pinning it to an exact GPS location. What we're planning on implementing is it will be tied to a specific location. So say O'Connell's again. You have, say, 50 people there, but you only click on the O'Connell's pin, and it brings up a list of everything that will actually be posted to that location.
Yes.
That's a beautiful and memorable logo or set of logos. But I'm not sure, how does it connect to the CrowdStory name? I mean, why didn't you call yourselves Plot?
The question was why we chose our bird logo and the color scheme.
We chose our logo and chose the red-billed quaila as our mascot because it is the most numerous bird in the entire world and is particularly famous for its flocking capabilities. And, of course, as a bird, it makes quite a bit of noise. And we called ourselves CrowdStory because we wanted to really bring together the idea that everyone can add their own story to a mass group, and it's just another way of social interaction to share with everybody and all of your friends.
Yes.
Isn't South by Southwest originating from Austin, Texas? And is it possible the University of Texas might sabotage your strategy?
The question was about South by Southwest Interactive Trade Show.
I'm not sure if the second one was serious, but yes, it does originate in Austin, Texas. And the exciting part about Austin, or the exciting part about South by Southwest is it has a large demographic that attends that are the tech-savvy early adopters and some of the largest and loudest online blogging voices. And so we're really excited about that opportunity. I don't know if UT would slide their fingers in, but I think that we could, get the head start on them, if so.
All right, well, we thank you very much for your time.
Oh.
Sorry, we're done.
There are so many reasons to be proud of this team that I don't know where to start. But my personal opinion is that I really have admired this team's determination and passion for what ultimately has become their baby. This semester, this passion and determination has really enabled them to overcome so many challenges and ultimately set up a very strong basis for the launch of a novel product in the spring semester as the team continues to work towards the success of CrowdStory. Congratulations, Team CrowdStory. For our next presentation, I would like to invite to the floor Dr. Craig Shimasaki, CEO of Biosource Consulting Group.
Thank you. I was told I had 1 to 2 minutes, so I can tell you what Henry VIII told his fourth wife. I won't keep you long. But this group here is, rather than a project, it's actually a company. And the company is in the biotechnology space. And biotechnology is really an interesting field in that the time to development and the cost of developments are really unlike any other field. So for everything from a diagnostic to, say, a therapeutic, you can expect that it could cost anywhere from as low as $50 million to as high as $250 to $350 million. And it could take anywhere for a diagnostic 5 to 7 years to 15 years to see a therapeutic product to market. So you can imagine what entrepreneurs go through in order to bring these products to market. And having co-founded 3 companies, and I see another colleague and co-founder in here, whom we took one public, I had an affinity to a saying that says, learn from the mistakes of others because you never live long enough to make them all yourself. Sometimes I think I have. But in the biotech field, it is really the marrying of business and science. And because science and biology of humans is so variable, I really like to liken it as the business of uncertainty. Because what you're doing is you're taking business concepts and you're actually tying them to biological unknowns with a high price tag and also a long time to development. So you can imagine the challenges that are facing these entrepreneurs and the biotechnology industry. But having said that, some of the greatest developments that have ever been made in medicine have come from biotechnology. AIDS drugs that never were thought of before, antibodies that will actually target and treat breast cancer specifically for tumors that are of a certain type that actually have very little or no toxic side effects. Things such as what you'll hear about antibiotics that actually evade the resistance of bacteria that have mutated so rapidly. And the challenges are very high, but so are the rewards. And so most entrepreneurs in this field don't really get in it to make a truckload of money, though I hope they do. They get in it because they really see the value of what they're doing to actually make an impact and significance on healthcare and life in general. And 2 of the things that are really important, and I try to stress this to a lot of entrepreneurs, is that you have to have vision and you have to have passion. And you'll see that in this team, and you've seen it in all the teams. But vision is so important, and vision is just seeing things what other people don't see. So you're looking at things and you're actually seeing something that others do not see. And it really is true in everyday life because we do this all the time, but we don't really think about it. Because any structure that exists, like the Eiffel Tower or the Statue of Liberty, it existed in someone's mind many, many, many years before it ever was created. And so you have to have vision and you have to see things that other people don't see. And you'll hear a wonderful story about that. But then you also have to have passion. And my wife sometimes gets me on to me about that a little, because sometimes in the beginning I would say, you wouldn't want to buy this, would you? And you're really trying not to discourage people, but you're trying to engage them and let them see the vision that you see, because once they see that, they become part of your team, and they actually become a co-worker, a co-laborer in actually getting that vision done. There's an interesting scripture in the Bible that says, where there is no vision, people perish. And I-China is a nice example of that. But you have to have vision. And without that vision, you really don't have a lot. And that's why the United States is such a great company, or an industry and a country with many companies that actually function from entrepreneurship, is because of the vision that people have and the freedom and the ability to create things that don't exist. So this is my first exposure to CCEW, and I can say that I have been very thoroughly impressed with not only what I've seen, but what they have been doing here. And I didn't know it existed, but they have some of the brightest and the most talented individuals within the organization, and they have a vision for what they see. And so that vision has created a lot of the things that you're going to hear and you continue to hear. But I also want to give kudos to Dr. Ann Pereira, who is the entrepreneur and the inventor, and I think maybe at least a decade she has been working on this in quiet obscurity inside of her laboratory. And now, with the help of the team and the CCEW, they have won this grant, which is a significant part of this program of getting to those, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars you're going to need, but getting it on the way to actually becoming a commercial product. So Team Biolytics, they are a diverse group, law students, geologists, accountants, engineers, and you wouldn't think of that as being a biotech group that actually would come together, but they have passion, and I wish I had half their energy, but they apply that in a multidisciplined fashion that actually comes up with so many questions that I have to think about, is that the right answer? Because some of these questions I haven't heard before. But they are things that curious minds end up being able to see things that other people don't see. So I think you'll be really pleased to hear and listen to this story. But remember, it actually is a company, and that company is actually functioning, and we hope to see that product on the market that will be able to save a lot of lives here in the future.
Hello, and thank you for coming tonight. We are Team Biolytics. My name is Ollie Khalili. I'm a third-year law student with a degree in microbiology.
I'm Ashley Zumwalt, a petroleum engineering junior from Choctaw, Oklahoma.
Cole Roberts, mechanical engineering senior, Mustang, Oklahoma.
My name's Christian Bester, and I'm an accounting student from Allen, Texas.
Biolytics is one of Oklahoma's newest and most exciting biotech companies, which was one of Oklahoma's newest and most exciting biotech companies. Biolytics was founded in 2005 by Dr. Ann Pereira. Through her research, Biolytics currently holds 14 patents surrounding a novel peptide drug called CAP37, which is currently in its preclinical stages of testing. Furthermore, Biolytics recently hired a new CEO to develop and implement a successful business model. Biolytics engaged in an ongoing partnership with CCEW the summer of 2010 when the company asked the fellows to help develop its Edge Fund grant application. As a result, Biolytics was one of 3 companies out of 62 applicants to receive a $1.8 million Edge Fund. Biolytics re-engaged in its partnership with CCEW this fall when it asked our team to identify the company's market potential, its funding opportunities, and the regulatory pathway it would have to undergo in order to capitalize on its robust IP portfolio. Of the many questions our group asked, the first was, what are the additional markets that Biolytics should focus its preclinical testing on and those which it should explore with its future research? Second, what was the regulatory pathway that Biolytics would have to undergo in order to get their drug to market, more specifically, the costs associated with each test? Third, what advancement into each additional market would mean for the overall value and growth of the company? And finally, what next immediate steps the company would have to undergo in order to capitalize on its opportunities. Biolytics technology addresses the overwhelming problem of antibiotic resistance. Over the last 20 years, antibiotic resistance has increased by 30% due to over-application and misuse of antibiotic drugs. Furthermore, exacerbating this problem is the fact that drugs within the pipeline treating such infections have reduced quickly, with only 3 drugs being introduced to the FDA within the last 5 years. With antibiotic resistance increasing at an exponential rate and no new drug treatment options available, infections will only begin to spread more rapidly. As a result, the Center for Disease Control has ranked antibiotic resistance as the #1 problem facing healthcare today. Biolytics' novel peptide drug called Cap37 is derived from a naturally occurring human protein. Peptides are small strands of amino acids, which are the building blocks of human and animal cells. Peptide drugs are generally new and with variances can treat a wide range of problems, from cancer to skin ailments. Cap37 is a novel treatment option and therefore has low antibiotic resistance due to the fact that pathogens have yet to be introduced to the drug. Furthermore, Cap37 is unique and is very effective in that it has low drug-drug interaction and has low toxicity, which means it will have minimal negative effects upon its patients. However, peptides are currently much more expensive than traditional antibiotics, and peptides must be administered intravenously. For this reason, hospitals are the ideal setting for peptide drug administration. In the past, peptides have been prevented from entering the market due to their high toxicity, their high manufacturing costs, and their low potency. However, tests conducted on Cap37 within the last 5 years have shown that these issues are not prevalent with this drug. This is a very important fact for the ongoing development of Cap37. Now here's Ashley to tell you a bit more about the applications of the drug and the potential markets that it can penetrate.
Thank you, Ollie. The initial applications of Cap37 have shown great promise in 2 broad categories, anti-infectives and wound healing. Within the anti-infective spectrum, Cap37 has shown to be extremely effective in treating hospital-based infections and fungal-based infections. The type of hospital-based infection addressable by Cap37 is limited to a particular kind of bug known as a gram-negative. Well-known bugs, like MRSA, that are often discussed in the popular press, are gram-positive and thus not addressable with Cap37. However, there are gram-negative pathogens, such as Pseudomonas and Acinetobacter, that are just as deadly. Gram-negative pathogens are particularly troublesome because they largely have no effective treatment option due to antibiotic resistance. Of these infections, many strains have mortality rates as high as 50%. Biolytics has decided to first commercialize the anti-infective portion of this peptide. It has thus far focused its research funding and management capabilities on a treatment for Pseudomonas. The development pathway for Pseudomonas was decided prior to our team's involvement by Biolytics. Our team has focused on establishing Cap37 as a broad efficacy treatment by identifying 3 additional anti-infective markets, which include Acinetobacter, E. coli, and a fungal application. Cap37 has also shown the ability to heal damages to tissue. And initial tests in eye tissue show that Cap37 may be able to be used in serious corneal wounds that without treatment would result in severe vision loss or even blindness. This capability of Cap37 may extend more generally to include skin wounds, but more research needs to be done in this area in order to fully understand the efficacy of Cap37. The wound healing market will be discussed later in our presentation. So, as I stated previously, the initial application of Cap37 is Pseudomonas, and that was chosen because of the huge need in this area, as well as the large market size of $306 million annually. Our team has identified 3 additional markets, so let's look at the characteristics of those. Acinetobacter is a virulent bacteria that thrives in the hospital environment and can survive on human skin or a dry surface for weeks before causing an infection. Acinetobacter can attack open wounds and has most recently been found in recovering burn victims in our soldiers. It's becoming a pressing issue within the military force. It is estimated that 1/2 of soldiers returning from Afghanistan and Iraq with burn wounds will become infected with this deadly pathogen. Due to a lack of treatment options, many of our soldiers who valiantly return home from service will die as a result. This is a pressing area of research within the National Institutes of Health and the Department of Defense. However, no treatment has been found and developed as far along as Cap37. It is estimated that Acinetobacter has a market size of $51 million in 2010, growing to a size of $89 million by 2025. E. coli is a well-known bacteria that generally causes foodborne illnesses. Of its many effects, E. coli can cause gastrointestinal and urinary tract diseases with side effects as severe as acute renal failure and permanent dependence on kidney therapy. The number of cases each year is large, with 450,000 cases in 2004. The growth of this market is highly variable and is linked to outbreaks. If food safety in the U.S. improves, the market for this drug would become smaller. But as the historical trend shows, E. coli outbreaks happen frequently worldwide. The annual market value of E. coli in 2010 is $36 million. Within the fungal market, candidemia occurs when a patient's bloodstream is poisoned with fungi. Bloodstream poisoning can cause septic shock, permanent disability, or even death. There are 3,000 cases annually, which equates to an annual market value of $9 million. Although the market is small, clinical need is great, as there is no current last-line treatment option for these patients. The 4 markets currently displayed on the screen total to a complete market value of $402 million annually and may establish Cap37 as a broad efficacy treatment. Now, current gram-negative treatment options are extremely limited. As a first line of defense, monotherapy with existing anti-infectives is used, which means that you just use one anti-infective. Although toxicity is low with this method, antibiotic resistance has developed. So as a second-line treatment, a cocktail of existing anti-infectives is given. Although antibiotic resistance is still prevalent, the toxicity increases with this method. And currently, as a third line of treatment and a current last line of treatment is colistin. It was actually outlawed in the 1970s because of its extremely toxic effects on patients and was only brought back because there is no other treatment option. Antibiotic resistance has even begun to develop to colistin, leaving patients with no other treatment option. So Cap37 could actually come in and take this position, offering patients a treatment option with both low toxicity and low antibiotic resistance. And if market scale-up can be achieved, it could overtake the first 3 lines of treatment and become a first-line treatment option. So now to talk to you about the regulatory pathway through which our drug would have to pass before becoming available to the general public is Cole.
Thank you, Ashley. Now that Ashley has talked about the markets, how do we attain those markets? Here is the basic FDA regulatory pathway that all drug companies must go through to reach the market. It begins with preclinical testing, which is safety testing on animals. Once completed, an IND, or investigational new drug application, is submitted to the FDA. Once approved, the company is given the right to pursue clinical trials. These clinical trials consist of 3 phases. Phase 1 being toxicity testing, Phase 2 actually being 2 separate phases, Phase 2A and Phase 2B, and these mainly deal with efficacy. And finally, Phase 3, which is considered the most pivotal of all the phases because it's a nationwide randomized efficacy test. Once all of that is done, an NDA, or new drug application, is filed with the FDA. Once approved, the market can be pursued. For preclinical trials for Cap37 for the indication of Pseudomonas, it will cost $4.3 million to complete. However, as previously stated, $3.7 million has been attained from previous grants, also known as the EDGE and NIH grants. This leaves only $600,000 necessary to get to the IND stage, leaving $1.5 million for Phase 1, $4 million for Phase 2, and finally $10 million for Phase 3. As Ashley previously stated, though, Cap37 has demonstrated efficacy in 3 other markets. the total cost for these other markets to get through the preclinicals and reach the IND stage is only $630,000. This is because as Pseudomonas testing is being completed, some of the testing phases overlap, significantly reducing preclinical trials and eliminating phase 1 costs. So phase 2 and phase 3 are still there, and those costs can be seen above. Total cost for all 4 indications to go through preclinicals and reach IND is $1.2 million, with phase 1 still costing $1.5 million, phase 2 costing $16 million, and phase 3 costing $40 million. However, most smaller biotech companies sell their compound at the end of phase 2A to a larger pharmaceutical company. This, in turn, eliminates the most expensive part of phase 2 and takes the original cost of $16 million down to only $2.4 million. The preclinical trials can be funded from an SBIR grant or Small Business Innovation Research grant, while the clinical phases can be pursued with a NIH R01 Clinical Trials Implementation Grant. So what does all this mean? It means that for 4 indications, it will only cost an extra $5.1 million to reach the end of phase 2A. Now to talk to you more about the valuation of the company is Christian Vester.
Cole just outlined the regulatory pathway and discussed the funding requirements and solutions. I will now show how the valuation of the firm changes as the anti-infective portfolio changes as it moves through the regulatory process. The bottom part of this graph represents the cumulative development cost for Pseudomonas, and the top part represents the valuation for this treatment in each phase. These valuations were obtained using a risk-adjusted net present value analysis. So, with only a Pseudomonas treatment in the pipeline, the portfolio will be worth $39 million at phase 2A. However, if the company can further develop treatments for the Acinetobacter, E. coli, and fungal markets, it can increase the valuation of the portfolio by $12.7 million, while it will only have to invest an additional $2.4 million in development. This will lead to a total valuation of $51.7 million at phase 2A. Furthermore, the further development of these treatments can help the company claim broad efficacy. Then its valuations can truly skyrocket. Broad efficacy means that the drug can treat multiple gram-negative pathogens. In fact, companies or drugs that are very similar to CAP37, which have proven broad efficacy, have sold for much higher valuations in the market. Calixa, being the most similar to CAP37, actually sold for $92 million at phase 2A. Now, it should be mentioned that CAP37 uses a novel mechanism to kill its pathogens, and Calixa does not. As a result, it's reasonable to conclude that CAP37 might even sell for a higher amount. Now, with only a Pseudomonas treatment in the research pipeline, the company will produce about a 6x return on investment. But if it can prove broad efficacy and capitalize on these other market indications, it can increase its return on investment to 10.5x. Now that we have discussed how a small amount of extra investment can unlock a large amount of additional valuation, let's take a deeper look at the business model. Currently, the company has Pseudomonas working through its research pipeline, and shortly will also be developing other anti-infective treatments. As this portfolio moves through the FDA pathway, the company will have to outsource a bunch of its non-core testing to clinical research organizations and contract manufacturing organizations. The reason for this is that it would simply be too impractical and too expensive for the company to establish the facilities necessary to complete these types of tests. Now, they will push the portfolio through to phase 2A and then sell it to a larger pharmaceutical company. Then, Biolytics can take these proceeds and reinvest it in the research pipeline to pursue other markets where CAP37 has shown promise. In fact, if the company can continue to develop applications and sell them to other pharmaceutical companies and reinvest the proceeds in other types of research, it can create a sustainable business model. We earlier alluded to the fact that CAP37 has shown some promise in the wound healing market. And our team has identified this to be the perfect place for the company to reinvest the anti-infective proceeds. So at this time, let's take a deeper look at what the wound healing market entails. CAP37 has shown promise in the wound healing market because the peptide makes cells migrate into the wound and then regenerate. This shortens healing time and also minimizes scarring. The wound healing market can be divided up into many different segments, but we have placed our focus on 3 of the biggest of these market segments: diabetic ulcers, venous ulcers, and corneal ulcers. Diabetic ulcers occur in about 15% of the diabetes community, and once contracted, this wound is very difficult to heal. This market is currently valued at $7.2 billion and has a growth rate of 7%. Venous ulcers, on the other hand, are caused by a lack of circulation, and they are most commonly found in the hospital environment in the form of bed sores. This market is currently valued at $3.6 billion. And finally, corneal ulcers result from ulcerative keratitis. And if this condition is left untreated, a patient can entirely lose their vision. This market is currently valued at $75 million. In the aggregate, these 3 markets are worth $11 billion. Given the large size and growth potential of the wound healing market, we deem this to be the perfect place for Biolytics to reinvest the anti-infective proceeds. In summary, our team has identified $96 million worth of additional markets in the anti-infective arena. And we have shown how Pseudomonas has laid the groundwork for further anti-infective testing, due to the fact that a lot of the tests will actually overlap, which will decrease the aggregate testing cost. And third, we showed how the valuation of the portfolio can increase drastically with only a minimal investment. And finally, we identified the wound healing market to be the perfect place where Biolytics should reinvest its anti-infective proceeds. At this time, we want to discuss the recommendations that we have personally made to Biolytics. In the short term, we recommend that the company submits an SBIR application to require the additional $600,000 that it needs to complete preclinical testing for Pseudomonas. We then recommend that the firm takes advantage of R01 clinical trial implementation grants to fund clinical trials, which in this case would be Phase 1 and Phase 2A. These grants provide Biolytics with the ability to further testing without incurring any dilution. Next, recommend that the company applies for orphan drug status and submits a fast-track application. This will shorten the regulatory time and also slightly increase the valuation of the portfolio. Finally, we recommend that the company sells its anti-infective research and funnels the money back into the wound healing market. In the short term for wound healing, we recommend that the company applies for an SBIR grant so that it can get the wound healing treatment off the ground. In the long term, we recommend that the company continues to pursue promising markets within this field. And also, we recommend that the company maintains a platform business model where it uses CAP37 to treat various different types of illnesses. Ladies and gentlemen, it's truly been a pleasure this semester to have been able to work with Dr. Pereira and Biolytics. And we would now like to open the floor up to any questions. Thank you. Yes.
Given the millions of state and federal dollars expended on CAP37, does the public hold an ownership share in the drug, or should the public hold an ownership share in the drug?
The question was, given all the money that's been spent, public money that's been spent on CAP37, should the public hold an interest stake in CAP37? I guess I have to answer it. I mean, I would say that eventually the drug was commercialized, the entire U.S. population would benefit from it.
As a price, I think they would probably charge for this dose, right?
Yes, they would. But it would save their lives, which in the long run is more important. Sure. Yes.
So you said you would sell the research to the end of Phase 2A, and then use those for investments to continue with other platforms that the CAP37 can use. How will you be able to sell the drug without using intellectual property?
Essentially, the CAP37, this is probably a question that Ollie should answer, but Biolytics has 14 different peptides, and we will be, patents, and we'll essentially be selling the patents that it has for anti-infectives. But it also has completely different patents for the wound healing capabilities. Would you like to add to that, Ollie?
Fairly covered.
Yes, please.
Orphan drugs are usually for conditions that are rare and and are not profitable. This doesn't sound like that situation, so how do you justify that?
Well, orphan drugs, there's two ways to get an orphan drug status. Either your drug affects less than 250,000, or you won't make a profit. So either way, you can do it. However, I went and did research, and recently this year, a drug for Pseudomonas for a certain strand was given granted orphan drug status. So that's why we have decided as a team that that would be a good route to pursue.
And it's important to point out that Pseudomonas has 102,000 cases annually, so that does qualify as an orphan drug.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the patent life remaining, and given the time for development, how many years of revenues could actually be realized from the development of these technologies, especially if you're beginning research after you've sold off, the infected?
The question relates to the patent life that Cap37 has, and also about the market implications of that.
Well, actually, as said previously, Biologics currently holds 14 patents. They're currently in the process of obtaining a standalone patent on a modified version of Cap37, which would be a completely new patent for this version. Furthermore, all these patents that are affecting the new anti-infective markets that we are discussing have life beyond the years 2025, many of them. And then, of course, if Dr. Pereira decides to pursue the wound healing market and begins patenting those specific treatment options, those will also be additional new patents that will have a substantial amount of life. Also, with the orphan drug status, I think we get 7 years of market exclusivity if Pseudomonas were to qualify for that, which would, in essence, extend its patent life that extra 7 years.
I've just loved working with this team. I think I give them the Most Improved Award. I could just see them blossom and develop and gain so much confidence over the course of this semester. It's been terrific. I'd now like to invite Dr. Ann Pereira up to give a few closing remarks and thoughts about her time and experience with her team.
Well, congratulations to all of you. You did a terrific job, guys. Each time I've heard these presentations, they've just improved so incredibly. So all three teams, congratulations. It's been a super evening. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself here. I've been impressed with CCEW from the moment I started interacting with them. But when I see presentations like this and I see students so involved, I think in the 19 years I've been here at the University of Oklahoma, I feel that there's great hope because this is a new generation of entrepreneurs, of students, of people going out into the environment that we are now producing. It just feels so good to have been associated with CCEW. As Jeff has mentioned, and so many of you have mentioned, during the course of the evening, my interaction with CCEW has been a short one, but a very successful and a very productive one. So Jeff and I met over the summer, just this summer, and Rod was there too, and I managed to convince them that I desperately needed their help because as a basic academic scientist, I could do the technical stuff, but I just couldn't wrap my head around the business stuff. And this was really something that's been so lacking and missing, not just as an academic scientist, but even in the entrepreneurial world out here in Oklahoma. And so the team came together, and the team at that stage was Holly Rowe, and Stafford Marcotte, and Mariana Barrientos. And while I took 2 weeks off to go and spend some time in Ireland, the team got together, and they read everything, and by the time I came back, all totally relaxed, were just up to speed on this whole incredible, sophisticated thing of antibiotic resistance. Acinetobacter was just sort of, dribbling off their tongues. They could pronounce Pseudomonas. It was just amazing to see how quickly they went from knowing nothing about biolytics, nothing about something called Acinetobacter, to actually coming up with a whole product and a whole grant proposal that I was able to submit to the EDGE. And as Jeff mentioned, we were extremely lucky and greatly delighted to have that money to be able to now develop a drug, hopefully, that would have some value in society. And I hope Dr. Rissa is not listening to this portion, but I remember telling Jeff that, getting the funding was not important because my experience with the CCEW team was just so wonderful that to me was probably one of the best experiences I've had here. So to all of you, thank you for all the marvelous work you're doing. To the Tech Transfer Office, Colin Fitzsimons, and all of you, all of the work you've done, Daniel Pullen, Jeff. I know it's reception time, so I won't hold you up anymore, but it's been a wonderful experience, and I am very appreciative of being part of it. Thank you.
Well, it's been a terrific night. I think the teams have really done a great job. I'm so excited about the work that they've done. And now the semester is over, and we can turn to the new class. If I can have our new CCEW class stand for just a moment, I want to do some brief introductions. This is a really interesting, again, high-performing, really diverse class. This is our largest female class of CCEW, with almost half the class female. Let me just introduce their names here. Anoop Ball, Brett Bone, Blake Burgett, Sam Clancy, Dawit Dagna, Andrew Harnish, Yemi Harris, Aaron Hillis, Kelsey Johnson, Oliver Lee, David Rice, Renee Solanders, Alan Smith, Justin Stewart, Rachel Tyrell, Alexander Valentin, and Zach Whaley. Another large class and another terrific class I'm so excited about next semester. Round of applause, please. Again, thank you all so much for your support of CCEW. Thank you for the support of these kids. It's been a terrific night. I hope you walk away with thinking and just recognizing, as Ann has, this is just a great group of kids and a great organization. Thank you again for your support. We now have a reception outside, and feel free to grab these kids and ask all those questions you really wanted to ask.